Hello, so I'm making this video mainly because I kind of saw something that a mutual friend of mine kind of posted or on their stories and whatnot, and I've had this in mind for like quite a while. So it's just kind of something that I kind of just want to like let out. So basically, this person is very far left. Just a little like background. They're very far left. They're very like pro abortion, very pro LGBTQ. You know, they're a part of that community themselves. They're very like migration. Uh, letting people in and whatnot. And so it's like all that is, you know, I don't really care that much, mainly. But this person, they basically put something in their story which included the Bible. And so sometimes, I don't really play that much about when it comes to the Bible out of context. So this person, you might be wondering what they even put in their stories, and it's basically about treating foreigners like, you know, how you want yourselves to be treated with kindness and, like one of your own. Which is not wrong, you have always got to treat people, with kindness and respect and whatnot. But this person, they kind of just took it out of context and it made it very, like, immigration and whatnot. So, yeah. However, one of the things that they did forget to mention in their story was that this law, basically, was given by the Israelites. God gave this to the Israelites and said, hey, this is like a bunch of laws that you have to follow, and this is one of them. However, this person didn't mention that, and they kind of like misspread or did not misunderstood, let's say, twisted the words, and it's like, well, you kind of have to read the whole thing. This person is very pro-Palestine also, by the way. They're very not like against Israel, the whole Palestine Israel thing. They're very against Israel, but very pro-Palestine. Now, one thing that I do want to say is that, I have the Bible here, obviously, and I was reading it because I was like, I was curious, and it was, what they were referencing is Leviticus 19 verse, 33 through 34. Now, this is the verse that they took out of context, by the way. This whole verse or chapter is basically, like I said, the laws given to the Israelites. And there's so many laws that I would say that if you're not gonna follow all of them, you're just gonna follow one. Like, it doesn't make sense. Why follow one when there's like a whole bunch of laws that you have to follow? Like, for example, over here it says, is it verse 27? Only cut the sides of your hair or your head, and clip off the edges of your beard. Let's see, do not degrade your daughters by making her a prostitute, or the land will turn to prostitution and be filled with wickedness. Observe my Sabbath and have reverence for my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Now, like I said, it's like, bro, if, first of all, you're gonna take all these laws, and what you're gonna take is the one that's convenient for you, convenient with your ideas. Now, I would say it's wrong. I would say it's definitely wrong to take the Bible, taking one part of it, not the whole context and just using it just because it fits what you're trying to say. And that definitely like misguides people into thinking, the Bible says this and not this, which I would say to people who see verses online and see that it tilts a certain way, I would say go do your own research, look into the context, read the verses or the chapters before it, and then up to that leads up to the chapter or the verse, and kind of like see for yourself. But I don't like that they basically twisted it, and it's like, bro, either you're gonna take all this law, that was given to the Israelites, and because you want to follow it so badly, do everything that it says over here, and then you can follow the whole foreign and the land and whatnot. But if you're just gonna take one of that and ignore the rest of the laws, then it's like, why are you even following it if you don't even follow the other laws? I don't know if that makes sense, but to me it does. I don't know. And it's like even then, they're very against Israel. So it's like, bro, how are you gonna support something given to the Israelites, but support Palestine in certain things? Not even certain things, on the whole thing. Obviously that's a different topic. But yeah, this is all that I wanted to share, and yes, kind of like my opinion on it. So yeah, if you see a verse, I would say, go do your research, do some context reading. Don't just read and, go along with it, especially if they're from the left. Do your own research if they're from like the left side, because they tend to take things out of context, and that's not even from the left, from like a lot of people that are against Jesus Christ and Christianity. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say.